Hey guys, this is Jules. The other day in our live, we were talking about that ridiculous Lifetime movie that's coming out that's caused quite a stir, and we noticed that they started casting more people. We went through who they have so far, and then I added on who I think is missing. Let me know in the comments if I'm missing anyone.
Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false. You knew that was false. For anybody who had never heard that before, that question is now planted into them, unqualified representation that Mr. Kohberger stalked one of the witnesses, and that's false. We do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122. But we can put his phone in that area. There are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
Everything stated in this video is my opinion and my opinion only. And just like everything else in these cases we discuss here on this channel, everything is alleged. Oh, hold on. They have Kohberger's parents. Well, they have Marianne. Oh my God, look at this shit. Ah! Look who they have playing people. Like, this movie stuff ain't even serious. But let's just look for a second. So dumb. So Kaylee is gonna be played by Haley Hansen. This is her right here. And then we have who I still don't know who in the shit Detective Tom Holmes is supposed to be. There is no one with that name in any of these files named Tom Holmes. That is dumb. But this is apparently him, I guess, right here. So whoever the Detective Tom Holmes is an imaginary character. This is the guy playing Kohberger. He looks kind of like the Crow, like the original Crow with Brandon. So then this is who's playing Kohberger's father, a guy named Fred Henderson. He was apparently in Final Destination 2 from 2003. That's who's playing Kohberger's dad. This is the girl playing Xana. Her name is Kiera McElravy. This is what she looks like. I mean, she sort of like resembles her, I guess, but not really a lot. This is who's playing Bethany. This girl named Paige Shaw. A girl named Ruth Bidner playing Jasmine, Xana's sister. She's pretty. This is who's playing Emily, Sarah Louise Coolidge? It's not Coolidge. I was about to say, oh, are you related? But no. She's very business looking. I don't know. That's just like the tone I get. This is who's playing Hunter. This dude is playing Hunter Johnson. And then we go up here and we have, now this just says female student, and this is so freaking funny. If anyone has been following this case, you know who the hell this is supposed to be. And if I'm wrong, cool. I've been wrong before. I will bet $20. This redheaded chick is going to be playing the B.K. Norton girl from Pullman that Bryan Kohberger asked out for coffee. That's a lesbian, and was all pissed that a boy asked her out because she'd made it known that she didn't like dudes, and she took it like he was trying to hit on her when he apparently just asked everybody for coffee. Okay? She goes to HR the next day, puts in a formal complaint against him, and then starts stalking him all over the place. Okay, she's a redhead. Giving it a second thought now that I'm clipping this together. This could also be the pool party girl, Holly.
I was kind of mingling and socializing, started chatting with this guy. He had just moved and he was starting his PhD. He had put his number into my phone and I had texted him my name.
Now, the whole Dateline episode is gone. I can't find it anywhere, not even on YouTube. Even the channels that are like not monetized and post the entire video from like ABC and Dateline episodes all the time do not have this episode. But they did have this clip under something called Dateline Digital. So I think I'm going to do a bit more word searching with Dateline and see how many more other little pieces are actually still out there. Because I would really love to go over this entire episode, and I should have recorded it when I watched it and I didn't, and that was my bad. But the redheaded girl again could also be Holly. It probably actually more is Holly. She just didn't really come to mind the way that BK Norton did, because BK Norton has been around for so long, and we sort of knew about the situation at the pool party from sources like Howard Bloomblum, whatever, which really isn't a source. Plus we had like the DJ and the neighbor that were also at the pool party also come out and do interviews on like mainstream and say that they were talked to by the FBI. I don't think we're going to be able to see any of those interviews in a FOIA to Moscow PD. We know Moscow didn't really do a lot of anything. They've even informed me via a recorded phone call, Moscow never even spoke to Kohberger's parents. Once he got to Idaho, Moscow never spoke to him. The only time they spoke to him was in Pennsylvania, and Moscow doesn't even have access or authority over that interview. Insane stuff. But I just wanted to throw this in here because, while it could be BK Norton, now that I'm reconsidering a more recent person in the timeline, it very well could be Holly. It most likely probably is Holly. So this is who's playing Maddie. Charlotte Kavanaugh. I honestly feel like she has a more Dylan-ish vibe. To me, when I look at Maddie, I sort of see her the way that I see Kylie Rodney. She's very fairy-like, very light-like. It's like the only way that I can really describe the way that those two look. The thinner, paler, brighter, blondish haired, smaller, like Tinkerbell. Okay, yeah, Tinkerbell, I guess, is like sort of what comes to mind when I look at Maddie and Kylie Rodney. And I just don't see that when I look at this girl. That's just me, though. This is who's playing Ann Taylor, a lady named Eileen Petty. I'm sure they're going to give her a long blonde wig. And then we have, this is who's playing Dylan. Pascal Lamoth Kipnis? That's a name, bro. Carolyn Adair is playing a reporter. Bet you anything this is either going to be Nancy Grace or Ashley Banfield. This is who's playing Olivia. This girl right here is playing Olivia. This is who's playing Steve Goncalves. This dude right here. This guy is playing Steve Goncalves. Okay. This is who's playing Kohberger's mom. Marley Walchuk. This is who's going to play Marianne. Okay, so right off the top, they're missing Ethan, which is interesting because we've already been able to see all of the evidence of the Chapins erasing Ethan from the story as much as possible. We've seen it in the PCA versus the original documents being written by Brett Payne that came out in the Moscow Police Department document dump that's still very much publicly, freely available on their website. We've also seen the way they're going by twins now instead of triplets. There's just been a lot when it comes to trying to erase Ethan from what happened. And I have my suspicions on the reasons why. So I don't know if we're not seeing an Ethan character because they've somehow been able to step in and stop an Ethan character, or if they really are just having trouble finding an Ethan character. Time will tell. But speaking of Ethan, they would also need a Hunter and a Maisie Chapin along with a Stacy and a Jim. And for all of the victims, they would technically need their families, the ones that were outward and present. We would need Jeff and Kara because they've already cast Jasmine. Then we would need Ben and Karen for Maddie and their spouses. Then, of course, we are missing Christy, and we already have Olivia, but I question if there will also be Olivia and Steve Jr. in that whole twist. Keep in mind, again, I don't know the angle that this movie is going to go. I don't know if it's going to do like some of these movies do, where it just focuses on whatever they believe the lead-up is, which, with the way that it's looking, they're going to make him look like this creepy stalker guy, regardless of the fact that the state said this.
Kohberger allegedly stalked one of the victims. That's false. You know that to be false. For anybody who had never heard that before, that question is now planted into them, unqualified representation that Mr. Kohberger stalked one of the witnesses, and that's false. We do not have evidence that the defendant had direct contact with 1122 or with residents of 1122. But we can put his phone in that area. There are many residences in that area. It's a dense population of mostly college-related occupants.
So I can just imagine how this is going to end up being. So keep that in mind as I'm speaking about all of this stuff. They're going to have, most likely, this stalking story in the beginning, and then they're going to have portions of the crime time itself showing what they believe took place, him going in, the attack, all the things. We've already seen the clips going around that got Kaylee's sister Olivia really upset, so we already know pretty much what's coming in way of that aspect. But then they're also going to have, obviously, everything in between when it comes to the investigation that took place for like a month and a half or so after the crime, before Kohberger was arrested. Now, I don't know if they're going to end it with him being arrested and extradited back to Idaho, and then there's just like this fadeaway with the paragraph on the screen, and it just tells you about the plea date and blah, blah, blah. Or if it's going to go into all the court stuff, the change of venue, the house being destroyed, the lack of evidence, the everything. I don't know which way this movie is going to go. So keep that in mind when I'm trying to figure out who else we still need to be casted, because to me, it should be telling the truth. But we already know that it's probably not. So let's just go ahead and continue. They would also need Josie and Lyndon, because they were there during the 911 call and the first responders getting there. So speaking of first responders, they would also need Nunes, they would need Gunderson, they would need Warner, Corbin, Smith. They would need several of the officers to have someone cast to play their parts. And they technically have all of this footage that they could either use and make it more documentary-like because of all the 11/12 footage, or they could reenact the entire thing, but they have all the movements and they have everything that they said, so they could make this accurate if they really wanted to. We would also need the girl that went with Kaylee and Maddie over to the corner club, along with someone that is Eric Gower. We would also need Lakeland, who was home with Dylan, and then Bethany got there and left right before Maddie and Kaylee got home, according to her report. Then we would also need Jack Showalter, because he was at the grub truck, so there should be a grub truck scene with several people. I wonder how many of the people, like Joe Vado, I think is how his name is, and all these other characters that people have been talking about in the grub truck footage, they're going to show, or if they're just going to try to make it generic. I really, again, I don't know the angle this is going to go. Of course, we would also need Jack Decor. I don't know if they're going to have a scene where Cole would get kicked out of the corner club. I don't know how detailed they're going to get about all of this. But then we would also need Payne, because he was like the lead investigator. He's the one who did all the speaking for MPD afterwards, even though he was no longer working for MPD. Let's not forget that. But we would also need Fry, because he did all the press conferences. And then, of course, we would need Scott Green, because Mr. U of I president got a hold of every microphone that he could and took the spotlight in this when this was not an on-campus event, and he honestly had just like no right trying to take over. But as we found out from the Vandal alert, the university took over without even consulting the police, because they just wanted to do whatever they wanted to do. Now, we also, for the other side, don't see Kohberger's sisters, so we should probably see that. We should also probably see a Professor Snyder character. We should also see the BK Norton character, if the other character that we discussed is actually Holly from the pool party, because the BK Norton character is, again, where all of the formal complaints started, where the tally started, where all the crazy stuff started. We've gone over the facts of that 1.5 million times, so please feel free to go back in the playlist. All of the actual factual information is in there. But we would also need the Asian girl that befriended Kohberger, that was, going around Walmart with him and shopping, and apparently the same one who had someone apparently come into her apartment, and she called him to come and spend the night with her because she was scared, and asked him to help her put security cameras up. And somehow the media turned that into something crazy. And we've yet to hear from her, but the truth would be great, especially since the police over at the Pullman school are telling us that this break-in situation was never reported to them. So they don't have anything on record to even back up what we've been hearing this whole time. And again, to be accurate, they would also need Bill Thompson. They would need Ashley Jennings. They would need Massoth. They would need Logsdon, Bicca Barlow. If they were going to bring in any experts, they were going to have people for all the DNA experts, for the feds that were working the case, for Cy-Ray. That's why it's probably going to be like we've always seen. I mean, they could have the budget to hire all these people that are going to be a lot more than just extras walking around as furniture, basically. But this is why most of the time it's just to focus on the crime itself. And then there's like a page, couple sentences about what actually ended up happening at the end. I don't know. I guess we're going to find out soon enough. That's really all I can think of right now in way of people that we would really need to like have for sure. And honestly, I don't care about this kind of stuff. but I'm going to still pay attention to it because I can't stand when things that are not factual are put out there in this case, in any case, okay? And yes, I have made my mistakes when it's come to interpreting something differently than maybe it actually is, but I always, once I realize, that maybe I'm wrong on that, come out and tell you guys that I'm wrong and correct it every time and always. But these production companies that have the money to do things correctly, have the money to go in and do all of the FOIAs, have the money to go in and get all of the true evidence and do it correctly, documentary style, and tell the truth, when they don't, that honestly just makes me more upset than somebody sitting at a computer and editing things the way that I am. I know what I am capable of at my level when it comes to being able to access information. So I'm expecting the same when it comes to that arena. And y'all already see how I am with that. So of course, I'm going to want to pinpoint the mistakes in somebody who has infinity times resources that I do, because there's no excuse for it being false, for it being exaggerated. Again, the truth is sad enough. But the truth would mean that they could not have a lead up of him being in all black in his car, going into the neighborhood all these times, or going to the Target and seeing one of them at the checkout, or all these fake scenarios that the state has already told us don't exist. They wouldn't have a lead up to this movie, to this storyline, because what would they have to do? They would have to start a car at 3:30 in the morning over in the Indian Hills area in Moscow, because all of the Pullman evidence about a white car going towards Moscow that night was removed from trial. They don't have any freaking proof of anything when it comes to this man. And if the truth were told, they would have no movie. They would have no movie. They would have no lead up. They would have no suspense. It would just be straight up attack and nothing but questions and holy shit, what happened? And honestly, that sounds like a good one to me. So I don't know why someone is not just doing this based on the truth. But that's just me. Let me know what you guys are thinking about this stuff down in the comments. I'm going to be going live later on today over on my second channel around the deadline for the ransom for Nancy Guthrie, because I have been doing updates and talking about that case over on that side, because to me, this is more of a celebrity-based, high-profile case, and that's where I like to keep this stuff. Let me know again what you guys are thinking about this crazy-ass movie. And am I missing anyone important? I might be. I probably am. There's so many different people in this case. I'm probably missing quite a few people. So let me know down in the comments if you like the way that I present this information and give my opinion. Please don't forget to leave a like on the way out. Subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed already. And please don't forget to make sure that that notification bell is set to all so you don't miss any of my rants, reviews, reactions, updates, or deep dives. See y'all.